if you have a thick trunk, you can prevent that.
All right, how are you guys doing this evening?
Good.
Woo! Woo! Yeah, good. Now you have to forgive me, I don't have a clicker, so I'm going to kind of stand near the computer here so I can go through my slides with you guys. But I'd like to start with a question. I know we all work in fire and EMS. How many of you know somebody that has either injured their back on the job or been retired from injuring their back on the job? Almost all of us. That's exactly right. So what this speech is about is specifically about back injuries in the workplace, specifically for us firemen and people in EMS. Happens all the time. I myself have hurt my back on work before, and it was enough, to scare me into researching this and figuring out how we can prevent this from happening further. So let's go ahead and go to our next slide here. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics and EMS World, who does all the research for injuries in the workplace, more than 1 million workers reported a back injury just every year. Even last year, it was over 1 million people. More than $50 billion are spent each work year on work-related injuries. It's a lot of money on injuries in the workplace. 20 billion of that was on back injuries alone. That's pretty significant. $20 billion alone just in back injuries. EMS employees had over 27,000 work-related injuries. 21% of those were low back injuries. That's 1 out of every 5 injuries in fire and EMS happens to be on the back specifically. That's pretty significant. So we need to figure out a way that we can prevent these. So what I've done is I've broken it down. In order for us to prevent these injuries, we got to know what's hurting us. How are we hurting our backs? All right. Well, number 1, we lift heavy stuff. I put that up there. It's what we do. We lift patients. We lift victims. Just the equipment that we carry around is heavy. Hoses. We're humping around hoses all day. Hoses full of water. Saws, ladders, cots. Just the gear we wear is cumbersome enough to hurt our back. Lifting heavy things hurts our backs. We need to be able to recognize that. If we can't pick something up, we need to get some help. And we'll talk about more of that here in a minute. Where we all ends up, it gets us hurt. How many of y'all have had that patient between the bed and the wall? How many of y'all have had that patient in a small, tiny bathroom? We're in attics of houses on fires. We're in hoarder houses. We're in tight spaces. We're in basements. These are all things that hurt our backs. So we need to recognize those things as well. We have no time for warming up. A lot of times our calls come in the middle of the night and we go straight from our bed to humming around hose or picking up a patient. We don't have time to properly warm up our muscles. Like right now, we've been going all day. My muscles feel pretty good and I could probably go to work no problem. But getting up at 2 in the morning and going from 0 to 100, that causes injuries. It also causes fatigue, which is a main problem that causes injuries for us. How do we prevent these injuries from happening? So once we recognize what's hurting us, how can we stop it? I broke that down into 3 categories: brains, brawn, and an anti-macho attitude. That's how we're going to stop these injuries from happening. We'll get into specifics on that. Brains. You have to be smart to prevent injuries, okay? We have to be aware. We have to recognize potential for injuries. We have to recognize those hazards that have potential to hurt us, and we need to not do them so we can keep our backs. Our backs are our money makers. If we hurt our back, we're in trouble. So we have to be able to recognize that, and you have to have a safety-first attitude. If you don't have a safety-first attitude and you go out there all willy-nilly, you're going to get hurt or you're going to get somebody else hurt, period. All right, brawn. You got to take care of yourself. You got to exercise. You have to diet. You have to stretch. You have to do things that take care of your body. If you don't take care of your body and you sit around, you're going to end up hurting your back, especially when you have to go from 0 to 100 in the middle of the night. Just like I said earlier, you don't have time to stretch and get warmed up. If you're not physically fit, if you're not taking care of yourself, then all those are factors that hurt you. I put a couple links to some websites here that show exercises on strengthening your core. There's another website that shows a healthy lifestyle for diet. It keeps your body in shape, keeps your body healthy, keeps you from getting hurt. Okay. Anti-macho attitude. Don't be afraid to ask for help. A lot of times myself on the fire ground, they say, oh, I can get that, no problem, I don't need anybody's help, and I try to do it myself. That's the potential for an injury right there in itself. Don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it, especially if you recognize one of those hazards that we talked about earlier. Take your time. A lot of times we got to get it done, and we got to get it done now, because that's the business that we're in. If you recognize that it's a potential of something that's going to hurt your back, take your time, get set properly, get your feet set properly, lift properly, and do those things to prevent that injury. Also look out for the safety, of others as well. Just because it's not your back doesn't mean it's not going to be somebody else's back getting hurt. Have that anti-macho attitude where you help others and you look out for yourself. All right. Now we need to talk about what happens if you do get hurt. I know that it's very policy specific, so a lot of different departments do things differently. But the main thing is, if you get injured on the job and you hurt your back, stop what you're doing immediately. Don't hurt yourself any further. And you want to make it where your recovery time is not going to be as long, because if you keep going and you hurt it worse, you're going to be in big trouble and you're going to end up retired. Second thing you want to do is document everything. I know in our department we're really heavy on documentation, so it's very important that we document everything, especially if we're injured on the job, because then we can get the help we need, through work comp or whatever we need to, so we can help get back on the line and get better. Take the proper time it takes to fully heal. I know a lot of us, say, oh, I tweaked my back a couple days ago, I'll be fine by the time I come back next shift. Well, yeah, you might be feeling okay, but it won't take much to do it again. Take that time, heal yourself properly. The last thing is follow your doctor's orders. Very important to follow the doctor's orders. If the doctor tells you to do something, you better do it. Follow his orders, take the time you need, get yourself better. All right? So, that's all the slides I have there. So what I want you all to take away from this is to be able to recognize potential for back injuries. I want you all to do the things that you can to prevent those back injuries from happening. And then if something does happen and you do get hurt on the job, follow those steps, document it properly, take the time you need to heal, and get back on the line. You guys have any questions? No? All right, thank you all very much.
Good job.
Yeah.